it's a lot of hypocrisy going on, man. And it's really hilarious how some of these Paige Bueckers fans are making her day about Caitlin Clark.
Right after UConn won the championship, some people started saying Paige Bueckers is making a bigger impact than Caitlin Clark ever could. But here's the catch, Bueckers wasn't even playing in the game. Yet, Clark seemed to be on everyone's mind during the national championship. It felt like a perfect story, with Bueckers and Clark being the ultimate showdown, even though they never faced off directly.
Was trending at #1 over Dawn Staley and Paige Bueckers for a little bit, right after UConn won, right? I wouldn't even say a little bit. It had to be like a 2-hour run. But she was #1, right? Ring on Paige finger, no ring on Caitlin finger. And gonna put the little asterisk. Paige better than Caitlin, just in case Real forgot. We counting rings here.
The viewership numbers tell a whole different story, one that shows just how big of an impact Caitlin Clark has had on women's basketball. If you've been wondering whether the sport can keep the momentum going after Clark's time, the data we're about to share might just surprise you. Ready? Let's dive in.
And some of the same people who didn't want people comparing Caitlin Clark to Paige and Juju, they're doing the same thing, man. It's really ridiculous. It's really ridiculous, man. They couldn't even allow Paige Bueckers to have her day.
The scoreboard said it all, UConn 82, South Carolina 59. This wasn't just a win, it was a statement. The Huskies had completely outplayed the once dominant South Carolina team in a championship performance that marked the perfect end to Paige Bueckers' incredible comeback. After missing an entire season due to an ACL tear that nearly ended her college career, Bueckers stood victorious, holding a trophy that symbolized all the challenges she'd overcome.
UConn Huskies defeated South Carolina 82-59 to win the national championship. Now this is the 12th national title under Coach Geno Auriemma. This UConn team was kind of a prime example of peaking at the right moment because for the past 2 months they have been absolutely unstoppable.
The victory was Geno Auriemma's 12th national championship, a record that stands unmatched in college basketball. With his coaching legacy already cemented, it now feels almost legendary. On the court, players embraced, tears were shed, and the nets were cut in celebration.
This is the biggest big three, the most talented big three that I can remember in recent history. And these three just coming together, obviously with the role players around them, they have just looked like a well-oiled machine. They breezed through the tournament. I don't know if there was any close game that they had during this tournament, including the national championship game. Paige balled out in the tournament. And before this national championship game, she had a 30-point game, a 40-point game, and then another 30-point game. And Paige ended off the game with 17 points in this national championship game, but she also landed third on most points in the NCAA tournament. So she ended with 477 points. Now Caitlin Clark holds this record at 492 points in 17 games played. And then Shamika Holdsclaw, she has 479 points in 22 games played, and Paige scored 477 points in 22 games played. So she's third on that list. She is in great company, and she had a fantastic tournament.
A strong, UConn standout freshman, had a breakout performance that gave a glimpse of the program's promising future. At the same time, AZ Fudd wrapped up her own comeback story, playing key minutes after overcoming injury struggles similar to Paige Bueckers. Fudd's efforts earned her the Most Outstanding Player award.
Paige has more rings, than Caitlin Clark. I mean, made this whole day about Paige getting the ring over Caitlin Clark. It's crazy, man. Paige going out in a way that Caitlin couldn't. A national champion. That's the separator behind their legendary careers. Let's effing go.
As the champagne was still being popped in the locker room, a different story was brewing online. The celebration had barely started when social media exploded with a narrative that wasn't about celebrating UConn's victory. Instead, it turned into fuel for a made-up rivalry. Former NBA player Ethan Thomas was one of the first to stir the pot, posting, "When I asked why Paige Bueckers doesn't get the same praise as Caitlin Clark, many said she wasn't as good and not a generational talent. Well, now she's won a championship, something Caitlin Clark didn't do." So, do you still stand by that, or is there another reason?
Ring on Paige finger, but no ring on Caitlin finger. Ring on Paige finger, no ring on your finger, Caitlin. I mean, they made it all about Caitlin, bro. Paige Bueckers, more rings than Caitlin Clark. Hey, man, this is...
Within minutes, what should have been Paige Bueckers' moment became a debate about Caitlin Clark. Instead of celebrating Bueckers' incredible performance in breaking down South Carolina's defense or her leadership throughout the tournament, commentators and fans quickly turned the conversation into a contest over who deserved more attention, praise, and recognition.
I think Caitlin is Michael Jordan because everybody is chasing her legacy. At least that's what the fans are making it seem like. It's just crazy to me how ESPN don't have Caitlin Clark as one of the best players in college or women's basketball. But for some reason, every women's basketball player is supposedly chasing her legacy.
Shift happened in the blink of an eye. One moment, basketball fans were witnessing the culmination of an inspiring comeback story, and the next, they were overwhelmed by hot takes comparing two players who had both made huge contributions to women's basketball in their own ways. Suddenly, phrases like "moving the needle" took over the conversation, with Bueckers' championship being used as proof that she deserved the same spotlight Caitlin Clark had received all season.
And you do have some Caitlin Clark fans getting on Twitter as well and calling them out. I never heard of people putting down certain players for winning a natty until Caitlin Clark didn't win. That's a fact. Paige won a ring, but every tweet I see is about Caitlin. Levels. Why y'all bringing up Caitlin? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, I don't understand it, man. UConn won it all, and all my timeline shows is Caitlin tears, man. Y'all can't celebrate something in peace.
The genuine joy on the court was a sharp contrast to the divisive, often harsh discussions happening online. Players who had just achieved something historic saw their accomplishments quickly reduced to just another piece of the ongoing debate, one they never asked to be part of.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody keeps telling me that Paige Bueckers is going to move the needle in the WNBA in the same way that Caitlin Clark did. Well, maybe she will, but I know one thing. In college, that needle ain't moving. That needle didn't shiver compared to Caitlin.
Behind all the hot takes and heated Twitter debates lies something much more telling: cold, hard data. While social media was quick to claim Paige Bueckers was moving the needle more than Caitlin Clark, the television ratings tell a completely different story. When you take away the opinions and focus on the actual numbers, the difference in viewership between 2024 and 2025 isn't just noticeable, it's eye-opening.
It wasn't the Caitlin Clark effect, but it was still pretty impressive. Look, I gotta be honest, this 8.5 million viewers that they drew on Sunday, I'm not gonna lie, that's more than I thought it would be. I mean, so I guess if we're gonna give them any flowers, they drew a bigger rating than I thought they were going to. So there's that. Which was the third most in tournament's history per ESPN, but it was a steep decline from last year's game and a slight drop from 2023's matchup. So 2023 and 2024 both whipped this particular game.
Let's dive into the numbers. The 2024 Final Four matchup between Iowa and UConn pulled in an incredible 14.2 million viewers. Yes, 14.2 million people tuned in to watch Caitlin Clark face off against Paige Bueckers and the Huskies in a thrilling semifinal. That game alone became a cultural moment, drawing both casual fans and diehard basketball lovers. Then came the final game of Caitlin Clark's 2024 season against South Carolina, which reached a staggering 18.9 million viewers, the most-watched women's college game in history.
2024 brought in a record-setting 18.9 million viewers as fans watched Dawn Staley's South Carolina team complete an undefeated season and beat the Clark-led Iowa Hawkeyes 87-75. Even with Staley's Gamecocks taking on another superstar in Paige Bueckers and UConn, led by great coach Geno Auriemma, the game could not stack up to 2024's.
Now, let's fast forward to 2025. UConn and South Carolina, the same two teams Caitlin Clark broke viewing records with, are facing off again. You might think that if Clark wasn't moving the needle, these powerhouse teams would still pull in similar numbers. Well, here's where the facts speak for themselves. The final 4 games featuring UConn versus UCLA and South Carolina versus Texas had 4.1 million and 3.6 million viewers, respectively. Then came the finals between UConn and South Carolina, which pulled in a solid 8.5 million viewers. While this still made it the 3rd most watched finals, a noticeable drop from the previous year is hard to ignore.
So with less homes being counted, the number was 10 million people greater. Folks, in order to cut through the bullshit, I'm going to give it to you straight up. These numbers are pathetic. These numbers are abysmal. These numbers aren't good.
The math is clear. More than 10 million viewers who tuned in to watch women's college basketball in 2024 simply didn't show up in 2025. That's not just a small dip or a minor fluctuation, it's a huge drop. When someone moves the needle, it's usually by a few percentage points. But when Caitlin Clark moves it, the dial spins all the way around.
Numbers are so good. 8.1 million. Oh my God, 9.8 million. Folks, realize what this means. 100% of U.S. markets. So that means that Caitlin Clark 18 million was 66% of U.S. homes being included. Caitlin Clark 14 million against UConn. That was 66% of homes being included.
What makes these numbers even more telling is the context. The 2025 tournament had plenty of compelling storylines. It featured the reigning champions from South Carolina, Paige Bueckers' inspiring comeback, and a UConn team eager to reclaim its title. These are the kinds of narratives that typically attract strong viewership. Yet, without Clark on the court, millions of viewers chose to watch something else. The pattern becomes undeniable when you look at the bigger picture. Throughout the 2024 tournament, games featuring Iowa continued to break viewership records. This wasn't just limited to the Final Four, regular season games, early tournament rounds, and even Iowa's practice sessions were drawing record-breaking attention.
10 million people, realistically, more than 10 million people said, "Oh, I'm good on that. I'm not watching that." Wait, women's Final Four basketball? I'm good. Is Kayla? No, she's in the W. I'm good. Oh, wait, women's championship game? I'm good. Wait, is Iowa playing? Oh no, she's in the WNBA? Yeah, I'm good. But Paige Bueckers is playing. Paige Bueckers is I'm good, dude.
This isn't about downplaying UConn's championship or Paige Bueckers' incredible talent. It's about recognizing the fact that one player, Caitlin Clark, turned women's basketball into must-see TV for millions of Americans who had never tuned in before. Her unmatched shooting range, incredible court vision, and fierce competitive spirit created a perfect storm that captured the nation's attention. The gap between social media debates and actual viewer behavior couldn't be more obvious. While Twitter was filled with arguments about who deserved more recognition, millions of Americans were making their choice with the click of a remote. And their message was clear: Caitlin Clark didn't just move the needle, she redefined what was possible for women's basketball viewership.
Dave Portnoy, he just calls it like he sees it right here. You see this, 18.9 million viewers. Paige Bueckers, 8.5 million viewers. I'm going to need all the race baiters who explain Caitlin Clark's popularity simply because she's white to explain why 10 million more people watched last year than Paige Bueckers, also white, this year. I'll hang up and listen.